Next question.
As a business owner, I try to follow legislation that is going to impact my business, and I know that as legislators, you all want to know what the consequences could be of some legislation that you're considering. I want to address this primarily to Senator Danielson. You were quoted in the paper as supporting the bill that would add sexual orientation and gender identity to the state civil rights code. I wanted to start, I just focus on one part of that. I have a couple of questions as to how it would affect businesses. First, let's define gender identity. According to the proposed legislation, means a person's various individual attributes, actual or perceived, in behavior, practice, or appearance, as the attributes are understood to be masculine or feminine. Okay, the first question I would have would be in terms of dress codes for an employer. If a business hired a guy, I hired a guy to work, and the next day the person showed up dressed as a woman. The way I understand it, there's nothing that I could do about that. And if I lost business and eventually had to close my doors and put my employees out of work, that would be, I guess, tough luck. Before you say that that would never happen, just let me quote from the Human Rights Commission in another state. Under dress codes, employees have the right to comply with the gender-specific dress code that is appropriate to the gender identity. And they also admit that any given individual's gender identity or expression may make other people uncomfortable. So as a business owner, that concerns me, that could happen. I could lose customers. I think Carol's clock is fast. The other aspect of that is restrooms. Would a male who identifies himself as female be able to use a women's restroom, or would we have to provide a third restroom? And again, if you have a follow-up question, that's addressed, and I can tell you what it says about that, where this is passed elsewhere.
Yeah, I would be happy to respond to that. And I share those concerns as well. That's a part of the reason why we're considering the bill, so that we can clarify those through the debate. But I have a passion for democracy, as you have a passion for this issue. And I took the oath of office to uphold and defend, support and defend the Constitution of not only the United States, but the state of Iowa. And within the federal Constitution, Amendment 14 says that we will not treat people differently based on real or perceived characteristics. And when we've come to a point in our society where we know that people are affected by public decisions because of those character traits, we not only have an obligation, but a duty to act. And so if those are real concerns of yours, I am certain that the Senate, the House, and by the time it gets to the governor, we will address those concerns. Let me also say that people have deeply individual held beliefs about this issue. And I take none of that from you. I can't remove the hate from your heart or the disgust that you have for folks that have those traits. But as a public official, I can say that in the public sphere, you can't act on those. Now, I wish we were a more tolerant society. In this area, we have a long way to go. But I care about the fabric of our community and everybody that's in it. That's why I support that issue.
Senator, it sounded like you were saying I have hatred for those individuals, and I want to assure you that's not the case. As a born-again Christian, I love everyone. I do have biblical beliefs that I adhere to. I think whenever you have a law like this where you add categories, you're leaving out someone, as it was with the bully bill. You're not covering everybody. You're picking certain categories to include. I haven't seen, I followed this issue pretty closely, I haven't seen anywhere where this has been a problem. So you're considering legislation that's divisive and addresses a problem that doesn't exist from what I can see.
Does anyone else like to respond?
With the indulgence of the moderator, I'd like to respond. I mean, I was called out directly, and I think this is a very healthy debate, and I don't fear it. We had a young man in Waterloo who was murdered in part because of his gender identity. We have cases all over the country where that occurs. We had voluminous testimony by school officials who were supportive of the Safe Schools initiative, that this was an issue in our schools. It's popular to say that's gay in school and somehow get away with it, regardless of your perceptions. And you can choose whatever religion you like in this country. That's why it's one of our first freedoms. But this bill says that those deeply held private beliefs are yours and yours alone. When you enter the public sphere as an official act, you cannot act on that. I would hope in the long run that folks would take a look at the benefits of the 14th Amendment, which basically guaranteed equal protection under the law for a whole host of enumerated traits, and realize that this is a learning moment for our society so that every American, regardless of their characteristics, real or perceived, has a chance to achieve their God-given abilities.
Al, I'd like to respond directly to a couple of your questions. First of all, as an employer, you have a right to set a dress code, and if those individuals that are there at your establishment do not adhere to that dress code, Iowa is an at-will state. I wish it wasn't, but what at-will state means that an employer has a right to terminate people even without just cause. But the difference is that they have to pay unemployment benefits if they don't have just cause. So we had a debate about fair share in the Senate, and they talked about rights and liberties, and workers don't have a lot of rights and liberties. So if they are not adhering to your dress code, whether they're gay or homosexual, heterosexual, or whatever, you would have a right to terminate them. As far as the restroom situation goes, that would not be affected by this legislation, and individuals who might have gay tendencies, if they're men or if they're women, they're required to go into the proper restrooms. Now, you might find something out there somewhere that somebody said something different, but I want to tell you, in Iowa law currently, that wouldn't be the case, and it wouldn't be the case if this was changed.
Well, in the other...
Just a reminder, it's not a debate, so I think we're going to just allow
I just
response
would
and move
comment,
forward.
too, and this is quite clearly an issue that really cuts along the lines of beliefs. Again, you'd said you're a Christian. I acclaim to that also, a Christian, and practice my faith. But I also know that there are many, many people and loved ones, people that you really care about, that have different beliefs, lifestyles. And I have always, my parents, I know, have always said to me, Bob, whatever you do, respect people for what they are. And as this discussion moves forward, I haven't seen the bill, but I think that's something we need to keep in mind through this whole process, is remembering respect of others. And I try and do that, and I hope that others will also.
Okay, any other response? Great, thank you. Next question.